Alrighty, in this problem here, we are going to be solving this quadratic equation using the square root method. The reason I know that we want to use the square root method, probably the best reason for using the square root method, is because I have this thing that kind of looks like vertex form. I have my x is inside of these parentheses, and these parenthesis quantities being squared. The only way that I'm going to get after this x, get into this x, get the x by itself, is if I end up square rooting this quantity. I need to get inside of this thing. I need to get that exponent out of there. So the only way you can undo a square is by square rooting. And one thing I want to say before going any further is something I see quite a bit is people wanting to say, oh, well, let's start by distributing that 3 and going through, pushing that through to give me a negative 3x plus 3, and let's square that. Now that's just, I'm sorry to say that's not quite correct at all. Think about what the operations are that's going on here. In between this negative 3 and the parentheses, I have multiplication. And what's happening to this quantity? Well, this whole quantity is being squared. So we have to follow our order of operations here. This quantity gets squared long before we would multiply anything by a 3. Now, if you really wanted to go the long way, you could expand this x minus 2 squared, multiply the quantity by the quantity, multiply that by negative 3, combine your like terms, solve using a method we've seen before. I think that takes too long. If we have something that's looking like this vertex form, let's just go the fastest way and solve using square roots. All that aside, let's get the ball rolling. I like to kind of ignore this quantity and just say, let's just call it a box. It helps me to see what I'm isolating here. So let's just pretend that inside these parentheses I have this box, and later on we'll just remember it's x minus 1. So let's rewrite this problem as 3 times my box squared minus 1 equals negative 28. We want to get this box by itself so that we can end up square rooting it. So let's start off by adding 1 to both sides. And that's going to cancel this guy out. I'll get a negative 3 times my box squared equals negative 27. And then we divide both sides by negative 3. This guy will cancel. And now I will have a box alone that is being squared, which is equal to positive 9. And this is what I wanted. This is good. Now that I have this quantity squared by itself, I can square root both sides. So let's do that. Let's take the square root of both sides, and I want the positive and negative root of 9. So that means that my box is going to equal plus or minus 9. These are two scenarios. One where my box could equal positive 9, and one where my box could equal negative 9. Since both possibilities are true. And actually, I have a little error here. Maybe you caught it as I was doing this, but I don't want positive and negative 9. I want positive and negative 3. So let's fix that before I make any more mistakes. Now, let's see. I've got this box all by itself, 2 scenarios of what it could equal to. Let's plug whatever that thing is back into the box. Okay, x minus 1. That means that x minus 1 could equal positive 3. X minus 1 could also equal negative 3. So let's solve for x in both of these scenarios. So over on the left, x could equal 4. And on the right, x could equal negative 2. Which means my solutions for this quadratic is x could equal either negative 2 or 4.